Come on.
And I can't wait.
Come on, Franny.
Yeah.
I love it. You're going to make it happen. Seek permission to be able to kind of mitigate that power imbalance, just even in the small ways, gives a little bit more agency.
It would be remiss of us to not talk about shame that can come with that. Like, why would you not, kind of show some resistance or pushback?
It's not just what you do in the episode where the resistance may be amplified, but what you do all around that.
Come join us. What are you doing?
Nah, man, I'm just here cheering you on, man.
Hello and welcome back to the Social Matters podcast. We are three social workers talking about social matters. Hi, I'm Nadia.
Hi, I'm Fran.
Hi, and I'm Eugene.
So, guys, welcome back. How you doing?
You looked at me, it was like I don't know. It's like I felt pressure to share how I'm doing.
Well, that's generally, we do have that question. Why pressure?
Why you not allow me just to share my feelings? No, I am good. This is the first episode of the new year that we're recording. It feels like we haven't been in the studio for a long time, and
you're right.
so it's like back on old ground, but feeling good.
Yeah.
I'm thinking a little bit bunged up, so if I sound nasally, then people know. Why.
Sorry. It's been lingering, isn't it?
It is. It's been lingering.
It has.
It's taken a while to shake off, but I think a lot of people have had this whatever cold or flu that's been going around, and it's funny when I'm on the train and I hear the cough. I'm like, that's my cough. I'm familiar with that.
I own that cough.
But I'm at the tail end of it, so feeling better. What about you guys?
I'm good. I also feel like it's been a while, but I don't think it has been that long. It's probably been like a month. But it does
so much
feel,
has happened,
kind of over a festive period. I'm good. I'm in a mild state of panic because I've just done something. So basically there's this I don't even know, maybe cult / fitness thing called High Rocks, which I was looking actually what it stands for. Oh, it's something like high. Oh, I'm gonna have to Google it now. It's something in rock star. Like, hang on, let me find it.
Go on then.
Anyway, there might be some kind of listeners that are into it, but
Are we allowed to share cults on this podcast? So if it's a cult, you want to be...
Well, did you
endorsing that?
Where did you first hear about High Rocks? Because
so I first heard about it because my friend Nuna, shout out Nuna, she did it, and so she put it on her Instagram, and then Candice Brathwaite, I saw that she did it as well.
Hey,
Shout out Candice Brathwaite.
Shout out Candice Brathwaite, yeah. And then we were somewhere, weren't we? And then we saw people going to the High Rocks event in Excel.
Yeah, it'd been our team away days,
That
and they
was
had
it.
like backpacks and everything.
That's it.
And then we said to them, "What is this?" So you know, when something comes into your consciousness, it's everywhere. I've just looked it up. It stands for hybrid and rock star. That's what High Rocks, a combination, is. Anyway, it's like I don't know. I don't even know how. This is how kind of knowingly I've gone into this thing, and I don't know much about it. But it's basically some sort of for me, I'd say extreme sport. For others, it might just be like some fitness thing. It's a bit like circuits. And I've never been to a gym. I've never done weights, and I've signed up to do some High Rocks event thing in Riga in Latvia in May, which seems very soon for someone who's, I took some books to the charity shop yesterday and I hurt my arm. Oh. So I'm worried that this little Popeye won't be able to do it. But equally, the challenge. So I've just literally paid my $1 about 2 minutes before we came on air. But the motivation. So come May, I'm going to be able to carry 5 books.
Come on.
And I can't wait.
Come on, Franny.
So, yeah.
I love it. I love the challenge. I love that you're just like, you're going to make it happen.
So so you signed up to High Rocks. That's your challenge for May. I don't know if people know, but Naz has signed up to 2 half marathons this year. So you're going to be training all year.
Yeah.
What about that?
Well, come join us. What are you doing?
Nah, man, I'm just here cheering you on, man. I'll go gym. I'll play a bit of football, tennis, that. I'm not killing myself like that.
No, it's not killing yourself. It's giving yourself a goal and working towards it.
I have a goal.
Of
Premier League footballer.
my friend.
Why? I back you guys. Why are you not backing me? I'm 40. Ronaldo's 40. He's playing at 40. Why can't I back him? He's 39. He's a little bit younger than me. But look, Ronaldo is 39. He's the all-time top goal scorer, and he's still playing at the highest level. So why?
Wait.
I can't
He's
play?
Ronaldo.
Yeah.
So you're saying
What's
he's
the
a better?
height-
Are you saying Ronaldo's a better person than your friend Eugene?
What is the highest level you've played at with your football?
In real life or on FIFA?
True, you got really good at that in lockdown, didn't
Oh,
you?
I bought the new one.
Weren't you in like the top 10% in the world?
I was.
In the world.
I think the highest I got to was maybe 700 and something out of 2.3 million people.
Shut
on
the
FIFA.
front
When
door.
I commit to something, I want to be the best. FIFA's my game, but then I started getting thumb cramp because I was playing too much.
Repetitive strain.
But then also when I was in that position, I said the only people who are higher than me are all under 14. And they ain't got day jobs, so that's the only reason they're there. Otherwise, if it was a level play field, why are you saying it like that?
Okay.
If it was a level play field, I'll be number one FIFA player in the world.
I love that the fact that we're 14 didn't put him off.
No.
I thought they were 14. Maybe I should have not been doing it.
No, I'm finished.
Day jobs.
So I'm sensing some like reluctance and resistance. You see it. You see it.
Fingers
Go on, go
queen
on,
of segues.
Go on.
My G.
Yeah, some resistance and reluctance in wanting to join us in our fitness goals and fitness I don't know, goals, hopes,
Journeys.
dreams,
Challenges.
challenges, that's it. And today's episode is about working with reluctance and resistance. And yeah, so a nice segue there for us to kind of think a little bit about this. I feel like you want to say something.
Yeah, so by the way, listeners, this is the first time I've heard what the episode topic is. These guys just picked it up right there. Like, let's talk about this because it's not really.
But yeah, this kind of, came about because I was delivering some training the other day to social workers or people in a kind of social work context about working with reluctance and resistance. And I thought that, it might be just an interesting conversation for us to have on the podcast. And I just thought, let's bring it and have a bit of a chat about, working with resistance or reluctance or however you want to kind of like label it and describe it. And I suppose just to kind of, think about the fact that I was doing it in that context. We're working in social work, in a social work context with families who maybe don't want social work involvement and, working where we hold as social workers kind of like a lot of responsibility, authority and power. And how do we kind of give thought to how we hold and use that power when we're working with people who might not want to be in relationship with us. Just coming from that context is something that I was thinking might be useful for us to think about, yes, in terms of social work context, but also when you're in conversations with your friends and you have a really good idea about their lives and they don't want to get on board with it. So I just thought that it'd be an interesting conversation for us to kind of have here.
Yeah. Definitely, because I think it is something that kind of shows up in any relationship, as beautifully evidenced by Huge not wanting to get on our goals and letting the side down. Strategy. It is particularly, we're all from social work backgrounds, and I think it's something that it's terminology you'd hear a lot, isn't it? Of like, working with resistance and resistant families. And I think one of the things over the years in terms of that was kind of what we're talking about is actually when we're thinking about resistance, we're thinking about in the context of change. When we're talking about that, it's like resistance to some kind of change, I suppose, isn't it? That's often the kind of context that we're thinking about. But I think one thing that I saw over the years in social work is a starting position is reframing that resistance. And you use the language of reluctance, because I think, as we always say, language creates meaning, and if you're going in with that idea, it's almost you're positioning in this combative thing of like families were often kind of pathologized, weren't they, as like resistant families, hard to reach, not engaging. So I think one for me when we're thinking about this topic is what are we talking about here? So we're talking about in the context of change, but we're talking about families who may not want to work with us. So trying to understand that, I think, has been the key, and often kind of reframing it. And the other thing that was a kind of real key thing was to expect it.
Yes.
Like in any, like, why would you not? Why would you someone just come, particularly when we're thinking about relationships and power, for someone just to be like, okay, yes, I will do what you want. So I think that they're key things to think about, how we can reframe the language, because how that sets us up to position ourselves entering that relationship, and how we can see it in the context of relationships, as you always say, are a systemic G, as in like it's not what is going on in that relationship.
Yeah.
That's showing up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. A lot of what you're saying, Fran, was coming to my mind. Surprise, surprise, we're just one being together, just separated occasionally.
Except you're not on our fitness
Yeah.
calls, so
Well, we have to give the full story now. So we did say that we're all going to do it together at the end of the year, and and I'm signed
True.
up. And I'm signed up.
Are you up for that?
I said that
okay.
you knew I was. Yeah, I said you both knew I was. I'm definitely doing
So
that.
High Rocks November.
Yeah,
2025.
May. I'm not ready. Like,
Okay.
I don't want to just go and take part. I want to win. No.
Okay.
I'm not. I don't want to win. I just want to get through it. So yeah, no, definitely up for it later on in the year. But what you're saying about reframing, really, I really subscribe to that, because I think, and language creates meaning. That for me, it makes me think that different words in our language has a different amount of weight. So the word reluctance or conflict or resistance, I think in certain contexts has a different weight. So it's almost like a 50k dumbbell, but when you reframe it, it becomes like a 15k dumbbell or 20K.
is that a lot? I
dumbbell.
don't know for the high rep.
Yeah, no, 15.
Sorry, really on my mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But it's less weight. So then if people are holding less weight, they can move more, they can operate more. So it is so important to kind of think about, okay, what understanding do I have of this word, and how much weight am I placing on it versus how much weight that somebody else place on it, and reframing to be like, okay, this is exactly what you said, Fran, around like almost like what's the alternative? Like, is that everybody says yes, and also starting with self and thinking about who you are and what you're bringing, because I think it's quite I don't know, it's not being open-minded to have the thought that everybody will be grateful and accepting of my support, whether it's from peer to peer, whether it's in professional relationships. Like, somebody will already have their own way and their own mindset and their own thoughts. So for you to perturb that will take time, and will take the building of relationship and that trust in order for somebody to hear your side. So that's a way of chipping away at the reluctance or resistance as well.
And I think just building on from what you were saying about that kind of self, the idea that there's resistance or reluctance in a relationship, is that coming back to that thing you were saying that I always say about, it's in the relationship. Yeah. So what is it, this resistance isn't over there in that person. Yeah. Like it's in the relationship with me, if I'm, the person. So what is it about me that means that I'm contributing to what's going on, and why there is that kind of, resistance in the relationship? Is it something that I'm bringing, I'm not doing, or, is the way I'm kind of trying to make Eugene come on board with this thing, like is that contributing to how kind of the resistance or reluctance is showing up? And I think as well, sometimes it's almost easier to locate it over there, to be like, oh, that person's just resistant, like, that's what the problem is, it's them, it's over there. But what is it that I'm doing actually? And is it my feelings of like frustration or feelings of helplessness or hopelessness that means that, that I am perpetuating that resistance in the relationship? So I think it's so important to constantly be curious and interested in what is it that I'm doing that's contributing to what's happening here.
Yeah, it's so important, and there's been loads of research, hasn't there, around that in the context of change. So we've all kind of done various training and taught motivational interviewing, which is a counselling technique around supporting people with change. And Miller and Rolnick, who developed that technique, did loads of research looking at what was happening in that kind of, as they said, client kind of helper interaction, and found that it was what was happening there. The kind of outcomes were directly related to the helper's helping style.
Yeah.
And I know Donald Forrester did more recent research in social work where they observed social workers with families, and were looking for things that kind of increased that, I suppose, in this language, resistance or pushback. And it was, again, what the social worker was or wasn't doing. So important. But again, it can happen, can't it, when you're busy, you're stressed, you're overstretched. The time and effort to kind of think, what am I doing? What am I bringing? And how you are able to get the space support reflective spaces to kind of do that. But absolutely, that importance of bringing that self-reflexivity and self-awareness is so important.
I think as well that there's, you were saying to almost expect it when in terms of the context of change. Like, there's also something about being very curious about the logic of the resistance. Is the logic like, what? I'm quite fine with how things are. I don't want to change. Is the logic, no, I don't want to enter a relationship with you because I need to protect myself and my family from whatever it is you're trying to bring. Is the logic protective? Is the logic almost like wanting to avoid judgment and wanting to avoid kind of being scrutinized and criticized? There is a logic that you, and to be curious and interested in that logic is something as well I think that can be helpful in kind of helping you think about what might be happening and how it is you might be able to hold a bit more compassion and a bit more sort of grace for the person and the relationship.
Yeah.
I like that, and there's the idea that there's multiple truths in that.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of being curious and using that curiosity to interrogate or find out what that logic is, but also knowing when to kind of punctuate this episode of dialogue or curiosity and accept that there may be an untellable story, a story that this person can't share, that's informing their logic of why this apparent reluctance or resistance is presented in the interpersonal relationship. Because there's stuff about individuals that they don't want to share, or they choose not to share, that is a significant kind of factor that organizes their perceived reluctance or resistance. So when somebody is reluctant or resistant to something, I think as an individual who's on the receiving end on that, not to go away with a single story of like, this person, to use me as an example, this person is not like committed to challenges or bettering himself, blah blah blah. It's like you can hold that as a story, but not letting that be the story that organizes you, like, but also accepting that there is another story or another explanation that this person is not willing to share with me, and that may be due to the relationship, that may be due to the significance of this untellable story, but that curiosity is important. I love what you said about the idea of what's the logic behind it, and not holding on to a single story that is negatively connoted, like this person just doesn't see what's best for them.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about me.
He just doesn't know. No, but building on the idea of logic, I think, I mentioned at the beginning, it's often, particularly in social work, but I guess if we think about, if you're a leader or a manager in a team, it's often, we're talking about differential in power, whether kind of perceived or kind of given. And I think, that has layers as well, doesn't it? And I think particularly in social work, often working with marginalised communities who experience discrimination and oppression, I think, it'd be remiss of us to not talk about shame that can come with that. So again, to expect it, like, why would you not, kind of show some resistance or pushback when you're kind of in those spaces as well? So I think that's another kind of idea. But also your kind of thing on the kind of negative connotation. There is that quote, isn't there? Like, nobody changes under a negative connotation. So I think that also thinking about the importance of a strengths-based kind of approach within it and kind of drawing out on those positives, because sometimes the kind of resistance or pushbacks comes from, we're thinking about the client-worker relationship, that hierarchical being told what to do.
Yeah.
And I think we can all think of examples in our own life or even with friends or partners, like you're not going to change if someone tells you what to do,
You've been speaking to Robbie.
I was like, we can all think, but thinking of myself as well, like that, and again, back to motivational interviewing, part of the kind of theory of change behind that is that the change needs to come from yourself. And I think sometimes, particularly in social work or maybe in management or leadership, you can fall into a relationship of telling people what to do.
Yeah.
And that is only going to result in more kind of pushback or resistance, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking while you were speaking about the kind of power and hierarchy and relationship, and it was making me think about ways in order to, tools that we have in order to kind of mitigate that kind of imbalance in the best way we can. We're never going to be able to fully kind of, put power to one side in a relationship, but the way some of the things that we kind of think about, and I was talking about on the training that I was delivering the other day, was this idea of permission seeking. So taking that position of kind of, is it all right if we do this? Is it still a good time for us to talk? We need to have this conversation. We need to have this meeting. Who do you want to be part of that conversation? In those small sort of interactions and small kind of ways to kind of seek permission to be able to kind of mitigate that power imbalance, just even in the small ways, gives a little bit more agency, a little bit more power to the other, and helps to kind of, almost, I suppose, the meta communication, what isn't being uttered or what isn't being spoken is actually, I respect you, I'm interested in your view on this, like I'm interested in how we can make this work, and that in itself can be a super powerful way to kind of mitigate some of the power imbalance. It's not what's the word, like a straightforward way to do so, but even in the small ways, how can we share power with people to help people kind of feel more of a sense of agency and more of a sense of, I can do something here and do something with this, rather than being told, I'm coming to your house at this time, deal with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Agency and autonomy, I think, are so key in when we're thinking about change, aren't they? And I think permission seeking is a lovely way to be able to do that. And also thinking about, we often talk about like connection before correction, or different kind of variations on that, and people need to feel heard and understood before you kind of go, should we maybe think about getting you on the high rocks? Sorry, I'm stuck with this example. You just committed to the high rocks. It's just that he wants to win it. So May is too soon.
I want you. I have no chance.
No. But so there's something in that, isn't there, of people, and again, this is relevant to workplaces as well, isn't it? Feeling heard and understood, not just told, this thing is happening, this change is happening, deal with it. And it's hard because sometimes as leaders, for example, in workspaces, and even as social workers, in the context of safeguarding, those decisions might need to be made. But how can you also balance that with listening and, people feeling heard and understood as well?
Yeah, I that's it's a kind of a question and reflection that that I have, is that the context that are high demands and decisions are related to risk and harm, or in different fields is related to kind of productivity and completing tasks or whatever. So what may be organizing somebody who's giving that kind of instruction, and it may be like, I need this done ASAP because of whatever the outcome is or whatever the risk is, and then they're met with resistance, and they're not curious about that because they're like, this needs to be done. But that whole kind of relational aspect is not just should not just be evident in that episode, but it's how you treat people on an ongoing basis. So when there are moments where you do need to be direct and you do need to be less collaborative, because of how you are, the culture you've set, somebody may be more receptive of that. If the culture you set is one that is more relational, one that is more kind of respectful, evidencing that you're like you said, Nads, that you're interested in what somebody's saying, and respect, which I think is key. So when it comes to kind of working with resistance, it's not just what you do in the episode where the resistance may be amplified, but what you do all around that as well, I think is key and important.
Just when you're speaking, I was thinking about like times where I've been in workplaces and kind of felt done too, and I think what I really appreciate is being kind of the why being given to or explained, because there may be times that senior leaders or kind of CEOs or people in higher positions within organizations need to make changes or decisions, but if I can understand the why, I'm more likely to be on board. So again, that connects more with kind of really trying to understand people's perspectives and for people to feel heard, so not just kind of this is happening, end of. So I think that is relevant to social work as well, isn't it? How you can be as collaborative and relational as possible when we're thinking about change, not just like you must do this thing, end of discussion. That you can really seek to understand that person, where they're coming from, you can share your rationale, and maybe that change needs to happen in the context of work stuff. But I'm more likely to be on board if I'm like, do you know what? I might not agree with it, but actually I get it in line with the business goals or values or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that. I was thinking about how we might be able to use all of these ideas in conversation with Huge and his kind of like high rocks resistance. But I feel like we might be getting somewhere. I think I'm understanding a little bit more about your logic.
What's
Like,
my logic?
Your logic, you want to win,
Yeah.
and you feel like you can't win.
Yeah.
In
If you
terms
do
of-
something, you've got to
Yeah.
do it. You've got to be at the best.
Yep,
Whereas
yep.
I'm just like aiming to like carry a bag of peas.
Yeah.
It's not
Aim
that-
low.
Yeah, I think that is definitely part of my logic. Is like, okay, we're going to do this, then I want to do it properly. So I
Okay.
need that whole year, November. I'll be ready. I probably could do it, but I want to do it well.
But it is back to motivation, that, isn't it? And what motivates you. And competition motivates
Yeah,
you
definitely.
for sure. Whereas I think for me, having a end point, like for me, I needed to book this to be
Yeah.
like, maybe I better join a gym. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, that's what I need rather than the competition. I need like, okay, I've got this thing now. So best start
Yeah.
doing something.
But
Oh, I'm actually really scared. Shall I cancel it?
No. It's too late, it's too
no, you will have
But-
such FOMO as well. Like when all your crew's doing it and you're not.
But that's really, that's really helpful because we're three different people and we all have three different logics in relation to what motivates us to, in this situation, do the high rocks thing. Maybe do it. No, definitely do it. So that is a point to hold on to. Like when you're working with a team, when you're a leader, or in your relationships, or in your friendships, or with families, like you can't just copy and paste your approach to working with somebody's reluctance and do it with everyone, and then be surprised or upset when it doesn't work with a few or the majority of people. It's almost like a skilled leader or skilled person is understanding the difference in logic with different people, and like you both said, is like trying to be curious to find out what that is, because there's so much power in once you kind of find out or have a bit of an understanding of someone's logic, then you'll better be able to work with them, bring them on board, and then ultimately your team, your organization, your relationship, your friendship is going to improve, because that reluctance will have less weight. That 20k dumbbell will now be a 5k dumbbell. And
This
people
means
will-
nothing to me.
it soon will.
But back to finding the logic is back to your point of that compassion and that curiosity and authenticity, because I think you need to care about that person's logic as well to a certain extent, really, for it to be a meaningful kind of purposeful change relationship. So I think it's so key to try to understand that logic. But I think when people do it well, it's because they care. They're in that relationship. They're not just like, oh, I guess I better ask the team what they think, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I don't, do you know what I mean? I think it's got to be authentic in that curiosity.
Yeah. Well, thanks team for entertaining my suggestion on working with reluctance and resistance. It
Great
was
suggestion.
it's a good chat. So we have been Free Social Workers talking about social matters. You can find us on Instagram at Matters Podcast. You can also find us on LinkedIn at Social Matters. We hope that you have enjoyed that conversation. Please do share this with anyone else who you think might be interested, and continue the conversation. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.